Thanks, Dave. 6 minutes past 8 here at AM 1380, The Answer. And we have a guest joining us. It is Justin Danhoff, director of the Free Enterprise Project over at National Center for Public Policy Research. Hang on, got to do that. I had pushed the wrong button. Sorry about that, Justin. Good to have you. Welcome.
There you are, Phil. There you are.
Always a pleasure to have you on the program. You were recently at the Disney stockholder meeting, and boy, this is going to be a fascinating one to talk about. But before we get to any of the issues that you wrote about recently over at NCPPR, I have to ask a question. Did the issue of the gay curious moment that they've written into the new Beauty and the Beast come up at all?
No, as a matter of fact, it didn't. I kind of thought that they might put that front and center.
See, me too. I would think they would have been trumpeting the wonder of it all.
Well, it goes to wonder, the hype that was put on before the movie came out, is this all hype to try and get everyone to go see the new movie, or is it actually going to follow through on what they claim is going to happen in the film? So that's the fact that they didn't bring it up at the meeting leads me to believe maybe it's just a little bit of PR.
Yeah, well, that could be, too. But, folks, I think, frequently, Justin, we still think of Disneyland as, or the Disney company as the owners of theme parks and producers of family movies. But as a corporate concern now, this is a gigantic conglomerate that has their tentacles deep into the news business.
Oh yeah, Disney is a massive conglomerate, right? We do tend to sit back and think of Epcot and the big golf ball looking thing in Florida and Mickey and Minnie and the characters that we grew up with, right? That's what we think of. But Disney is much, much more than that. Disney, of course, is ABC News, ABC Entertainment. It's also ESPN. And in the movie franchise, they're expanding well beyond what most folks know. I mean, they now own the entire Star Wars franchise is now under the Disney umbrella as well, which the numbers there are just massive and staggering. And so, yeah, Disney is a much bigger company than folks just think about. And in the area of media bias and news, we have been to Disney's meeting a couple times to really try and pin down where the CEO of Disney wants to take the company. The CEO, he's a well-known liberal individual. His name is Bob Iger. It has been rumored that he may be gearing up for a presidential run in 2020. I make no inside knowledge of that, nor any comment on it. It's just been put out there in a couple of public places that he may be considering that. And so on the personal level, he's a well-known liberal. He worked actively with the Clinton campaign, which is, in his private life, that's perfectly fine and acceptable. But when you're running a publicly traded company, you have a duty to your investors and a duty to your shareholders to kind of uphold the fiduciary values that the corporation should espouse to. I mean, it's frankly a legal duty. It's beyond just some sort of moral duty to uphold the fiduciary values of the corporation. And so I kind of wanted to pin down Mr. Iger on a very simple concept that I think the election of President Trump has really brought more to the forefront than we've ever seen before. I think the issue of media bias has been sort of something, frothing for decades, but the election of President Trump really has brought it boiling to the surface with his characterization specifically of, calling certain outlets fake news and labeling others enemy of the American people. Of course, he said, and ABC News was on that list that he tweeted out some weeks back that, they're not my enemies, they're enemies of the American people. And of course, if you go to any Trump rally, the chance of fake news and the mocking of certain news outlets is quite prevalent by those in attendance. So what this president has done is really given a very public voice to what, some of us in the conservative movement have been clamoring about for years, but really those, who live on Main Street, who get their hands dirty when they go to work, they're not actively involved in pushing back on the media bias other than to turn off the networks that, basically ridicule and mock their everyday existence. And so I laid out a few examples to Mr. Iger very, very simply. And one of them has to do with perhaps ABC News' most famous personality, and that's George Stephanopoulos. So back in 2015, Mr. Stephanopoulos was interviewing a gentleman by the name of Peter Schweitzer, who wrote the infamous book.
Peter's been on the show a couple of times. It's a great interview.
Oh, yeah, Peter's great. And full disclosure, Peter's a member of the board of directors at the National Center. So full disclosure
I had no idea.
Yeah, Peter's a great guy.
No wonder he's so good.
That's right. And so there's this very tense interview that George Stephanopoulos conducts with Mr. Schweitzer, and it was like a boxing match. It was no interview at all. Stephanopoulos, it was clear, was out to impugn his character and impugn his work product, and really just wouldn't give him, any leeway to actually answer questions. It was more like a boxing match than an interview. Well, fast forward to last fall, when we get the WikiLeaks dump from Podesta's emails and other emails from the DNC, it turns out it appears very much that Hillary Clinton's operatives teamed up with Stephanopoulos for that interview by providing him with the talking points and point by point on how to dissect and try and take down Schweitzer. And again, this has not been refuted since WikiLeaks put it out there. Stephanopoulos hasn't refuted it. ABC News hasn't refuted it.
And frankly, Justin, I thought that was the biggest revelation from the WikiLeaks document dump, was the degree to which mainstream media was in collusion with the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, it was profound and pervasive, and the election of Donald Trump again brought the froth to a boil, but also we should have thrown in there again. Yes, WikiLeaks was also a big part of the timing of all of that, right? Because again, for a while, it has seemed, at least to the average viewer, that this bias and this favoritism towards liberal political positions and liberal political individuals was pervasive. But there we all had it in writing. And again, WikiLeaks has not been refuted by any of the actors that are in these emails. None of what WikiLeaks exposed has been refuted. And so, again, this kind of notion that we've known it all along, well, now we have the proof is now in the pudding. And so, again, I present this to Mr. Iger, that this is not just, what Justin Danhoff is hearing in his ears or what President Trump is hearing in his ears. This is what the American people are now hearing, because we've now seen it. We've now seen you exposed, laid bare for the whole country to see what's going on behind the scenes, and they frankly don't like it. The mainstream media in poll after poll actually polls lower than Congress when it comes to trust factor.
And Congress polls pretty low.
Which is, that's really hard to do. I think there's some diseases out there that have higher approval ratings than the mainstream media.
I'm curious that for such a big media conglomerate like this, what was their response?
Oh, head in the sand. We are extremely fair. What I was presenting was completely exaggerated. But again, Mr. Iger, and you can go to nationalcenter.org. We have the video up there. You can listen to his response. He never actually responds to the question that I asked, because the way I framed it with the Stephanopoulos example, I framed it with what's going on with the liberal social commentary at ESPN, and then I said you have a very simple choice to make. You can continue to ignore, mock, and ridicule flyover country, right, and only cater to liberal coastal elites. Or you can make ABC and ESPN welcoming to more viewers. Like, which one do you want? And he never answered that question. He went on a long diatribe about how ABC News is extremely fair. What I was saying is completely exaggerated, and that the First Amendment is, it's a value that this country, provides, that we have a free and fair press. And these attacks on the press just they cannot stand. And again, he's going on a platitude, a talking point. You can see why he may become a politician someday, because he couldn't answer the question. He just had to dodge and deflect, because if he were to take true stock of what's going on in his networks, he would have to admit that they do mock, ignore, or ridicule conservative and libertarian-minded viewpoints every single day.
Yeah. At 16 past 8, we'll have more with Justin Danhoff from the National Center for Public Policy Research and their Free Enterprise Project right after this. When we come back, I want to find out what they had to say about ESPN, because ESPN, folks, for a variety of reasons, is bleeding subscribers right now, and they're bleeding money. And I'm not entirely sure that the political worldview of the parent company doesn't have something to do with people abandoning television's sports leader. We'll have more on that with Justin Danhoff right after this on The Phil Cowan Show. Hi, friends. It's Phil from Mattress Firm. You heard right. Sleep Train is now Mattress Firm. It's the same store. It's just a new name. They've just changed the name. You've probably seen the signs being changed over the last few weeks in all these Sleep Train stores up and down the West Coast. Sleep Train has said goodnight. They're waking up as Mattress Firm, and even though the name has changed, trust me, all the good stuff you loved is still there. Mattress Firm will offer the same guarantees you're used to, like their low price guarantee. The Foster Kids program, which has just become a tradition and a real touchstone for Sacramento residents, and again, up and down the West Coast, as Sleep Train expanded, they expanded the program. They're still going to do the Foster Kids program, and they've teamed up this year with Simone Biles, the gymnastics gold medalist, who grew up in the foster system. They're very excited about the program this year. And right now, because of the name change, Mattress Firm is having what they're calling their once-in-a-lifetime blowout. There are a couple of product lines they're getting rid of because they've got new product lines they want to bring to the market. And I can't tell you which ones they are because I'm not even sure, frankly, but they're premium mattress sets, and they're available to you at an unbelievable savings right now. They got to get rid of them, both the ones in the warehouse and the ones on the floor. You can save on select mattresses up to 70%, and on some floor models up to $2,000. That's why they're calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Still guaranteeing you the low price, the best trained and most knowledgeable sleep staff in the industry. It's just a new name, and you're going to love it just as much. Save money, sleep better at Mattress Firm.
If a picture paints 1,000 words, what's your image saying about you? Don't let your marketing image be negatively affected by an amateur-looking snapshot. Let Sacramento Headshot Spot help your company make a great first impression. Their quality professional headshots will improve your marketing image for social networking, websites, business cards, staff portraits, and advertising. For a business portraiture that says all the right things, go to SacramentoHeadshotSpot.com. SacramentoHeadshotSpot.com. Like us on Facebook and picture yourself successful.
Ready for a talk show that's fast-paced, informative, provocative, and fun? Tune in Saturday mornings at 9 for the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angus & Terry, LLP, with your host, Attorney Brad Epstein, a seasoned veteran specializing in community association law, including construction defect. His firm has recovered more than $500 million for their clients. No fluff here. It's the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angus & Terry, LLP, hosted by Attorney Brad Epstein and his co-host, Jonathan Broderick. Saturdays at 9 on AM 1380, The Answer.
From the Big Mountain Heating, Air, and Solar Traffic and Info Center, Charlie Simons.
Westbound 80, Business 80, past Cap City split at Marconi Avenue. That accident has been cleared. Things are moving better. Still backed up, though, 80 westbound, beginning at Riverside, until you get past now the American River curve, come out the other side of E Street. 80 heading eastbound, that's where we got another problem. Center lane blocked at Auburn Boulevard. That's there at Riverside Avenue. It's got traffic backed up quite a bit to Madison Avenue. So watch out for that. Avoid it if you can. Take some side streets. Might be a day for, Roseville Road or Auburn Boulevard. 50 heading westbound, starting to Bradshaw Road. It's going to be sluggish until you get past 99, and 99 and I-5 both coming in from Alberta and Woodland or up from Elk Grove. Stop and go to the Capitol Corridor. You're thinking about sharing something with us that you're looking at that we missed? Lexus of Sacramento Traffic Tip Line, 830-3077. That's how you're driving? I'm Charlie Simons. Brought to you by the House of Automatic Transmissions. So, your automatic transmission broke and you're taking it to a shop that does general repair? Don't do it. Take it in for expert repair at the House of Automatic Transmissions. Expert repair is always better than general repair. HouseOfTransmissions.com.
You're listening to The Phil Cowan Show on AM 1380, The Answer, and AM1380TheAnswer.com.
21 past 8 here on the Phil Cowan Show, and joining us this half hour is Justin Danhoff from the National Center for Public Policy Research. He recently attended the Disney shareholders meeting. And Justin, I'm curious about how much discussion there was about ESPN, because that is a real issue on their balance sheet right now, for a variety of reasons, including trends in cable subscription. They are losing subscribers by the millions right now. However, I am convinced that NFL and MMA watching crowd that frequents ESPN, that Meryl Streep so famously mocked at her SAG Awards speech, I think Disney's attitude and this leftist slant that has infested ESPN makes it a lot easier for those sports fans to say, no, I don't need this.
Yeah, I mean, as a big consumer of sports myself,
you and me both.
You know, it's become like you can only watch ESPN these days. It feels like if there's a live sports event on, and even then you should then you need to put it on mute most of the time.
If it is a talk or any kind of an editorial show, I cannot watch.
You can't stomach it. It's become so bad, and so. You know, when I brought this issue up at the meeting, I didn't put it from my perspective. I didn't put it from President Trump's perspective. I actually used one of their on-air hosts who feels like you and I do, who's just had enough of it. And by the way, the guy in question here, he's not a Trump supporter. He's just a guy who came up loving sports and wants ESPN to get back to sports and get off of liberal social commentary. And this is exactly what he said, and I relayed this to Bob Iger. The host said, I feel like there's so many people that I work with that every show, every topic, every angle on it is hoping to be right, destroying the political right on every single thing that comes up.
Okay, I have to ask, who was the host?
Okay, I'll say it on this network. I didn't want to say it in front of Bob Iger because I didn't want Iger to fire him. It's Ryan Russillo, who does Russillo and Cannell in the afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And so then Cannell responded. He said, can you imagine if I teased this show right now and said, coming up, why all of you are wrong and why Trump is awesome? And then Russillo replied, we wouldn't even make it through the commercial here. So that's the attitude. That is the attitude that exists at ESPN, is these hosts who just want to talk about sports, who are so tired of their own network just running social commentary 24/7 that they are afraid if they took some position opposite what they're saying is about 90% of the commentary on their network, that they would get canned in the middle of their own show.
And again, does the board and does Iger continue this attitude that they don't see it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
again, this is so pervasive. It actually the ESPN ombudsman recently wrote a column about this, saying that it's a good possibility that much of the viewership that's leaving is leaving because of the liberal bias. And John Skipper, I know it's a great name for a boss. Skipper, that's his name, the head of ESPN. He responded that can't possibly be the case. And so the head of ESPN says that's, the ombudsman, who's independent, is saying, yeah, that's probably what's happening. The boss, who's not independent, is saying, of course that's not happening. And the big boss, Mr. Iger, said, what I'm talking about is completely exaggerated and unfair. And so what does this tell you, though? Like, you take a step back, right? Part of what we do is educational, right? So this is educational for ABC and ESPN consumers. If you are someone who is turning off the network and you're hoping for it to change, guess what? Bob Iger just said they're doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
So if I'm an on-air talent at ESPN, if I'm a producer, guess what? I'm not changing. The boss has my back.
Well,
the boss says everything we're doing is perfect.
And add to that the fact that because of their budgetary issues, it was just reported last week that they are about to either restructure or buy out the contracts, and some fat ones, of their on-air talent. Justin Danhoff, what are the chances they're going to use that opportunity to purge those who might be unhappy with the political direction?
Oh, it's happened more than once at ESPN, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we see with the next round of cuts.
Yeah. Oh, man. That is very telling that Rasulo and Cannell actually admitted that they just don't feel like they could be honest about who they are without losing their jobs. That is a sad commentary, man.
It is, but it's not surprising because this trend is it's really been spiraling out of control, specifically at ESPN. And with the election of President Trump, it just seems to, as they said in Spinal Tap, they've turned it up to 11 over there. They're really going overboard with their anti-conservative bias these days.
It really is kind of stunning, and what is even more stunning to me is that their willful denial that it's going on when even their own ombudsman is saying, yeah, no, guys, I think this is what's happening, and they just keep saying,
Well, and again, because we go in as an investor, and as an investor, shedding viewers isn't a good thing, and we're presenting a reason why that the ombudsman is agreeing with, hey, guys, maybe somebody needs to take their head out of the sand.
Sadly, I do not believe that is ever going to happen in Hollywood, Justin. Certainly not in our lifetimes. Hey, nice work, young man. Good to talk to you.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Appreciate it. Justin Danhoff, everybody from the National Center for Public Policy Research. It's 8:27. We've got to get the news. Dave Diamond is standing by.